In a tired little grocery store on the edge of town, a quiet cashier named Marcus worked lane 9 without praise, without raises, and without hope. On a rainy Monday, he paid for an old man's food with his own money, unaware that a man in a plaid shirt was watching from the detergent aisle. That man was a billionaire CEO undercover. What happened next not only changed Marcus's life, it shook an entire company to its core. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Under humming fluorescent lights and aisles stacked with forgotten dreams and discount bread, Marcus stood at checkout lane 9, scanning barcodes like he'd been doing for 5 years straight. His name tag scratched, his sneakers worn thin, his eyes tired but kind. The kind of kindness that doesn't shout, doesn't seek thanks, just exists like a stubborn candle in a cold room. And on that rainy Monday morning, when most customers barked orders into phones or tossed coupons at him without eye contact, an old man shuffled up with trembling hands, holding a dented can of soup and a bruised banana-soaked coat clinging to his thin frame. And while other lanes went dead silent or pretended not to see him, Marcus greeted him with a smile, scanned the items, swiped his own card to pay, and slipped in a protein bar from his lunch without a word, prompting disgusted looks from a manager who watched from the corner like a hawk circling a mouse. But Marcus didn't flinch, didn't ask for praise, didn't care that helping this man might put him on thin ice with corporate, because he'd been that man once, 12 years old, and starving beside a gas station dumpster while his mother tried to pawn her last ring for food, and he knew too well what it felt like to be invisible, unwanted, unseen. So he made damn sure no one ever felt that way in his lane, even if it meant going without dinner, even if it meant staying late unpaid, which he often did, mopping floors while managers clocked out early, training new hires who never lasted, covering shifts when coworkers bailed, and always with that same quiet resilience that made no noise but echoed louder than any boast. And what Marcus didn't know, what no one knew, was that the old man wasn't just a vagrant, and the guy pretending to be a bumbling new trainee named Tommy, who couldn't figure out how to stack canned beans, wasn't actually some out-of-touch transfer from another store, but was Thomas Langford III, CEO of Save More Grocery, heir to a $3.2 billion empire built by his cutthroat father, who believed in profit over people and had never once stepped into a store outside of quarterly press photos. But something had changed in Thomas after the death of his wife, a quiet woman who once told him that kindness is the only wealth worth keeping. And in a grief-stricken haze, desperate to understand the people under his brand's banner, he'd signed up for a week of undercover work, camera crew in tow under the guise of filming training footage, and what he found in that week shattered him. Managers mocking employees behind their backs, corporate emails instructing stores to upsell or fire, cashiers crying in break rooms over denied PTO for their child's funeral, and a culture of fear built on quarterly numbers and nothing more. But then there was Marcus, who helped customers carry groceries in the rain, who comforted a crying child with a free balloon and a warm joke, who once gave his only jacket to a pregnant woman waiting for the bus, who remembered regulars by name and made sure no elderly customer ever reached for the top shelf alone, who taught Tommy how to double bag milk with care, who took the blame when a price check went wrong to protect a single mom from being yelled at by management. And Thomas watched all of it, stunned, filming every moment, his heart breaking with every quiet act of decency, because it reminded him of the man he never became. But Marcus was the man his company didn't deserve. And when the final day came, and Thomas returned in full suit and tie, flanked by executives and cameras, employees froze mid-scan, jaws slack, whispers rising like static through the aisles as he walked straight to lane 9, where Marcus stood dumbfounded, blinking, still in his faded apron, asking, "Can I help you, sir?" Not realizing the man before him was about to flip his world upside down And with the entire store watching, Thomas took the mic and said, "You've helped more than you'll ever know." And for the next 10 minutes, he exposed everything: the cruel systems, the toxic culture, the neglect at the top, and then turned to Marcus and said, "This man didn't know he was being tested, but he passed with more grace than any executive I've ever met," and handed him an envelope that contained a $250,000 check, full medical coverage, paid-off student loans, and the deed to a home near his mother's nursing facility, while announcing that Marcus would now lead Save More's National Employee Advocacy Board, tasked with rewriting the handbook from the ground up. And as tears streamed down Marcus's cheeks and his co-workers clapped and cried, the old man he helped earlier reappeared, clean-shaven, standing tall, revealing he was a retired colonel and Thomas's godfather, who'd volunteered to test Marcus's character the moment he heard whispers of a cashier who treats every person like they matter. And the entire store fell into stunned silence as he embraced Marcus and whispered, "Your mother would be proud." Because what Thomas hadn't told anyone, not the cameras, not even PR, was that he'd also visited Marcus's mother quietly weeks before, bringing her flowers and telling her, "Your son changed my life." And she, too frail to speak, had just smiled through her oxygen mask, tears in her eyes, knowing that the child she raised in hardship had become a man who gave everything without asking for anything. And as cameras rolled, confetti rained, and the company's social media exploded with the clip of Marcus crying into Thomas's shoulder, the world watched in awe, not because of the money or the suits or the surprise reveal, but because for once, goodness was rewarded, because for once, a quiet hero was lifted into the light, because for once, a man who had nothing gave everything and received more than he ever dared to dream. And as the clip ended and millions commented with words like "faith restored" and "he deserves the world," Marcus sat quietly backstage, holding a letter from his mother written years ago when she thought she wouldn't make it, where she wrote, "If you ever feel invisible, just remember, light doesn't scream to be seen, it just shines." And that day, in Lane 9, under flickering lights and stunned silence, Marcus shone brighter than anyone ever had.